You guys have been requesting more videos for my branding series, so today I wanted to show you how I design and make these little cardstock tags that I tie onto some of my Etsy orders. They have my logo and my shop URL on the front, and on the inside they say that they're handmade by me in Cranston, Rhode Island, and there's also a handwritten thank you note, and I signed it. I like making these because they allow me to add a little bit of branding to the plushies I make after I wrap them up. I did another video where I showed you how I package my orders, and you can actually see these tags in that video. But a lot of you were asking me about those tags, so in case you're curious about how I print and put those together, I'll go into more detail now. I designed these in Adobe Illustrator. I actually already had both my logo and the graphic for the inside of this tag designed because I just pulled them right off of my Etsy shop banner. But I had to do some maneuvering and testing in order to figure out how to print on both sides of the cardstock and make sure that they lined up properly. Basically, I figured out the size that I wanted the tags and I doubled the width so that I could fold them in half. And I decided that I wanted to give them this detailed edge so that they would look like the ribbons in the rest of my branding. Then I arranged as many of them as I could fit on a letter-sized artboard in Illustrator just to make sure that I save as much paper as I can. And then I copied all of that over exactly onto a second artboard, one for the front and one for the back. This is where I did a bunch of calculating and printing out lots of tests to figure out exactly how these would work. I figured out that on both the front and the back side of the tag, I would need to have my graphic on the right side of the ribbon and leave the left side blank. So as you see here, it flips, and this one is on the right again as well. And I left this blank so I could write in it. So if you wanted to print something on the back side of your tags, you would have to put it to the left of whatever's going on the front. When I was testing these out, I learned two things. The first thing I learned is to print on cheap printer paper first before I start using the nice cardstock because that's expensive and I didn't get it right the first several times I tried. And another thing that I figured out how to do is that I actually decided to remove the outlines from the front side. Originally, you could see this ribbon outline on both the front and the back. The problem with having outlines on both sides is that sometimes the printer will shift the paper a little bit, so they don't always line up perfectly. And when I had outlines on both sides, it was really obvious that it wasn't lined up. I also prefer the way it looks with the lines on the inside because on the front, it looks a lot cleaner without ink on the edges. Once I was totally happy with the design, I made a note of the way I have to put the page in and how I have to turn it in order to get it to print properly. For this particular printer, I have to put the cardstock in textured side up, and then I print just the front page. That way I have plenty of time to flip it over and put it back in. And then I have to flip over the page from left to right. I made a little diagram for myself so I would remember. And then holding it exactly like that, I slide it back into the top of the printer so that the blank side is up, and then I can print the back side. Your printer might be different, so that's why it's a really good idea to use the regular printer paper to test it out first. And I only do this once every 6 months, so I usually end up forgetting the steps, which is why I have this little cheat sheet, because otherwise I would never remember. I'd always screw it up on the first try. Then I cut them apart using this cardstock cutter. Use scissors to cut the ribbon detail on the side. Then I fold the tag in half, punch a hole right on this little dot that I made, and then all I need to do to finish it up is write a thank you note and sign it. This is a kind of involved process, especially when you consider that I usually end up making a whole lot of these at once, and I have to make the actual products I'm selling as well. But I think that for me, it's totally worth the effort because branding just makes me so happy. I just get so excited whenever a seller that I've purchased from takes the time to put little details like this into their packaging. So I hope that this was interesting and maybe even helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.